Welcome ladies and gentlemen, this is a series in which I try and teach you how to play Heroes of the Storm by analyzing some matches. This guy doesn't seem to have a run animation. That could be a slight bug, not a big deal. Today I'm playing as Sonya, and this is a particularly good match because it shows the power of friendship. Well, I mean the power of teamwork. That's probably more applicable in this situation. Now in our current setup we have 3 going top, 1 going middle, and 1 going bottom. This is by no means optimal, but, well, I guess Rainer is a little bit confused as to where he's going, and he decides to go middle? Bottom? I guess he decides to go bottom. Well, I'm glad he at least found a lane. Right now I'm sitting in the middle lane looking at Raynor, hoping to do a little bit of damage once I do have the opportunity, and once I do a little bit of damage, I'm just going to get right back out. Actually, first I don't even do damage. At first I try and build up enough fury to be able to do a whirlwind attack. That way I'm able to do a lot of damage to both his minions and to him while still being able to get away safely and not really taking any huge amounts of damage, although he does come out ahead health-wise, but it's not a big deal. At least I put the scare in him. Now I'm doing a lot more damage, and that actually does pay off because now he's going to have to play a bit more conservatively than I would have to, meaning that I'm going to be able to push this lane a little harder than he would. Now, we don't seem to have any enemies on top because they did a lot of damage early game and everyone had to recall. Now, Tyrande and Vala put together, again, Tyrande doesn't seem to have an animation here, but whatever. Tyrande and Vala together isn't the best of choices because they're both very squishy characters. This isn't a very good composition, but again, it doesn't really matter a whole much at this level. Any composition can really become a good composition, and Tyrande, I'm somewhat worried about her not having any kind of movement in her whatsoever. Now, their Rainer comes up here and tries to help Vala and Tyrande, and that really helps them a lot just because they now have someone who can take damage but also deal a lot of damage. However, he is not tanking damage, he's just taking the seeds, which is exactly what Rainer should be doing. He's a smart guy, and I like him. Now this was a terrible decision of team match because they're just 2 against 3 and Tyrande was way out of place there. She shouldn't be as close up and personal as she was. She should have been staying back, and as soon as we got all up on her, she should have been running away. Because in this case, Tyrande should be staying back, as should Vala, and somebody else should be taking damage for them, but they don't have anybody, which means they need to play incredibly conservatively, staying incredibly close to their towers, as close as they possibly can. Now, we've managed to round up a ton of seeds, which is incredibly good for us. We only need 8 more in order to get the Garden Terror. However, we're being pushed away from this particular boss that would give us all the seeds that we would need without even really having to kill him, but a bunch of our guys are laning for no reason. Now, I have to remind you, even though mercenary camps are important, and I'm taking one right now, I should have been focused on getting seeds because map objective always takes priority over everything else, including mercenaries in this case. However, mercenaries are always important and too many people forget to take them, so always remember map objective first and then mercenaries afterwards. Now we managed to get all of the seeds that we need just through a couple of our players coming down here and getting a couple seeds off this boss, which is really enough to push us over the top. However, killing him wouldn't hurt, just to, not particularly because we need seeds anymore, but just to keep seeds away from our enemies as much as possible. Now, Diablo really should have gone for some mercenaries. They all should have gone for some mercenaries at this point, especially Tyrande and Vala, who aren't very particularly good at laning anyway. They should have been down over here taking these mercs, but they don't, and that's not a good decision. That's why we eventually end up steamrolling them, because we have control of both the map objective and the mercenaries at one point. And if you allow your enemies to take advantage of both of those things, both the map objective and mercenaries, they're pretty much just going to steamroll you at that point, and you can't do a whole lot about it. Now we're able to start pushing on these towers because we have our Garden Terror. They're giving us a bit of a hassle, but it's not a huge deal because the Garden Terror hasn't taken a whole lot of damage from them, and we're there to back him up. And in fact, they start focusing on me, which is nice because they're able to get me over this wall, but they should have been focusing on our Garden Terror and getting that down as quickly as possible, because that is far more dangerous than any individual hero. I'm still able to get out because of my awesome gameplay, but still, they should have been focusing on the Garden Terror. Focusing on me did them literally nothing. They gained nothing by focusing on me. And now we've been able to take out their first fortress and take out this entire wall, and we're going to be able to start pushing on this wall pretty soon because they haven't focused hard enough on the Garden Terror. Always remember, Garden Terror first. Map objective always comes first, including the Garden Terror. Now that was a very poorly planned out team fight by them because we were just able to steamroll them entirely. Again, everybody seems to be lacking animations, slight bug there, but oh well. You get the point. Remind you, this game still is in beta, so they're probably working on these bugs. Also, the replay feature isn't complete yet. Also, this game was from the previous patch, so just patching the game probably messed things up for the replay feature at some point. Now, we're even able to start taking their mercenary camps because they haven't started taking them yet. And even Tyrant here, just kind of walking past this siege camp. My brain is trying to eat itself and I'm barely even speaking English. We were completely taking over their mercenary camps, which is something that you absolutely cannot allow. Let's look at what their team is doing. Raynor seems to actually know what he's doing, which is good, and it's good that they at least have one knowledgeable person on their team. Vala, I'm not sure exactly what she's doing. She is defending the bottom lane, which is good, but since Vala is such a high damage dealing character, she could be taking siege camps relatively easily, and once the siege camps are up, a character playing as Vala, or a player playing as Vala, should probably focus on taking siege camps. Now look at this. Our camps are absolutely demolishing their walls and their front line, and we're not even having to do a whole lot, and they're distracting them, making Raynor and Diablo focus on killing the mercenaries, which they didn't actually complete doing, which they could have done real quick like before going for the map objective. I say map objective always comes first, but that's always a very subjective idea. If you can just quickly take something out and help your team a bit, then you should probably go and do that. Now Abathur trying to take these guys out, he's probably too late at this point. It's going to take him too much time to kill the mercenaries, and he should have just focused on the actual seeds, on gathering the seeds. Now Raynor, I just want to commend him for actually doing the right thing throughout this entire match. He's focusing on the seeds, and he seems to be focusing on the correct objective the majority of the time. We're able to take a bunch of seeds from this top Garden Terror, and we're going to be able to get a Garden Terror again. However, as you can see, our guy is growing again, and he has spawned. Someone just has to take control of him real quick like, and we'll be able to steamroll these guys even harder, even more so, because they're probably going to be focused on seeds. This might be a situation in which focusing on the map objective wouldn't be optimal, because while they're focused on seeds, we could focus on just pushing, which would just cause their defenses to deteriorate entirely. Watching people fight without animations is actually kind of creepy. It's kind of scaring me now, but oh well. Vala able to get away real quick like with really low health, but she stays in the lane and she focuses on the Terror. Actually, never mind, she's not focusing on the Terror. Stupid Vala. Bad Vala. You should always be focusing on the Terror if they are there. However, it might be a good idea to focus on us if we were more damage dealing characters, but Sonya and Moradin, they're not the highest damage output that you can imagine, and they probably should have just focused on the Garden Terror at that point. Now there are a bunch of siege camps open that every team should have been focusing on, especially these guys. They could have just quickly taken the siege camp. Never forget to actually take mercs if it is very convenient for you. Just take it real quick like. Remember that siege camps are going to be incredibly helpful in the long run. They're going to push a lane for you, and you're going to be able to focus on other things, or you can just push that lane incredibly hard and just demolish an entire wall, probably with just one mercenary camp. Before the enemy team actually realizes that you're there, it might take them a while. Especially at this lower level, people seem to ignore the important objectives and just go for mindless kills, which makes pushing with your mercenaries all that much more powerful. These guys, again, no animations. This is slightly concerning me now. Anyway, our team able to take even more of their camps. They should not be allowing this to happen. This is what allows us to steamroll them at a certain point. I don't think we even lose a fortress at any point during this game, which I would consider a flawless victory, but still. They shouldn't have been allowing us to take their siege camps. That was their downfall. And really this exemplifies just what we were doing correctly the entire time. We were focusing on objectives, we were focusing on staying alive and taking the objectives, while they were focusing mostly on getting kills. Also, Tyran should not be getting this deep into the fight. She should be staying as far back as possible. I get myself killed at this point, but at least I'm able to let Brightwing get away, which is good. However, I could have probably kept myself from dying in that situation if I played more correctly and I just ran away rather than trying to hold them off Brightwing, who probably would have just gotten away anyway. Always remember that getting away and living to fight another day is far more valuable than just dying for no real good reason. Now again, map objective is up. We start focusing on the map objective. If the team fight breaks out while you're going for the map objective, then focus on the team fight, of course. Getting them away is going to be incredibly helpful, and it's going to let you focus on the seeds later while they're all dead and they can't do anything about the seeds. However, we seem to lose out on this team fight, which is very unfortunate for us. However, we were still able to get a bunch of seeds from that exchange. We didn't really lose a whole lot other than time. Remember that dying really only makes you lose time because you're not able to focus on more important things. Vala caught out of position there. She shouldn't have been all alone considering how squishy she is. Vala can be an incredibly valuable part of any team just because of how high a damage output she has. However, you have to stay alive in order for that damage output to even matter. So remember that if you are a very high damage output character, always be staying in the back, always be ready to run away, and stay alive, most importantly, more than anything else. Dealing damage is important, but always know that if you die, you won't be able to deal any damage for a whole good minute, and a minute in this game can seem like an eternity. They're able to get their first Garden Terror out, which is going to hurt us a bit, but they haven't been steamrolling in the same way that we have been able to, and our team is going to start focusing on the Garden Terror right away, which is something that their team didn't really seem to focus on, which is going to allow us to get this Garden Terror down incredibly quickly, considering that we also now have our own Garden Terror. So their Garden Terror is dead as dirt. Now their Garden Terror is dead, our Garden Terror is alive, and we were able to win out on that team fight pretty hard. Their Rainer trying to knock us away so his teammates can get away, but they're not taking full advantage of this by sticking around far too long than they should have. Especially Tyran, she's getting far too into the fight than she should. She should be staying behind Diablo, she should be staying away from us. Which she seems, if I could speak English that would be nice, which she seems to be doing now, but now she's getting right back into the fight, taking damage from the Garden Terror, which she shouldn't have been doing. Now we're not able to get a great push off that Garden Terror, particularly because I was controlling it, and I suck at controlling the Garden Terror, but still. We could have gotten more, but it's not terribly bad because we're still steamrolling in a way that the enemy team can't catch up with. Also, 2 of them are dead right now while the map objective is up, which means they're not going to be able to collect seeds nearly as efficiently as we can. Also, they should be avoiding team fights as much as possible, considering that they are 2 levels behind. I get myself killed like a moron. I should have ran out of there quicker than I did. Now, a bunch of siege camps, or just mercenary camps in general, are open right now. We should not have let that happen. We got too focused on the push, and I start pinging the mercenary camps to tell my teammates to go back and get them, because they're going to help out in the long run. Just doing a simple push isn't going to get us a whole lot, but collecting the mercenary camps and letting them push for us, that's going to get us far. Now I remind my team that if we get all the camps, it's pretty much game over at this point, which is true. It's entirely true. If we're able to do this one last push with all of the camps, then we've pretty much won. Now, I think it's important to point out that you can lead your team around the map pretty easily just by using the ping system. Remember to ping objectives just to remind your team to get back onto the objectives, and feel free to actually talk to them and type it out if they actually do need the objective pointed out for them even more clearly. Just don't be an asshole about it, and I should point that out. Don't yell at your team, don't be an asshole or anything. Just make sure to get them back on the objective and get them focused on the things that actually matter in this game. Raynor able to get this, or actually I don't think he's able to get this mercenary camp, because I finished off this mercenary camp real quick like, and then I run up here and kill him, which is very unfortunate. Or even if I don't kill him, I can just get him out of the way. Actually, he does get the mercenary camp, which is really awesome of Raynor. Again, this guy seemed to be the only one on the enemy team who seemed to know what he was doing. He was trying to carry, but that just doesn't work in this game. If you have a bad team that doesn't exactly know what they're doing, then you are going to lose. And on the other hand, if you have a good team that knows exactly what they're doing, even if you have to point them in the right direction every once in a while, you're going to win incredibly easily, and flawlessly. Not a single fort went down this entire match, except maybe this one. Damn it, I hope we don't lose this. I really want this to be flawless, which is why I start killing these guys. Try to make sure they don't get the camp, or get the fort, even though I probably should have just let them, because it's not a big deal anymore. We could have just pushed and ended this game real quick like. But still, the fort's fine, which, you know, that makes me happy. Now one last team fight going down here. I'm not sure why Raynor popped his ultimate here, but, you know, why not? Really, you should be using your ultimate to attack the objective and the enemies at the same time if at all possible, which in this case it is possible, because we are right up on their nexus now, because we've entirely cleared out the middle lane. Now their Raynor gets a pretty good ultimate off because it seems to damage all of us quite well, and it gets us to just get out of the general area of his attack, which is really the strength of a Raynor attack. He can clear people out of a certain area if they don't want to die, and they're smart and they know how to not stand in the fire. Again, Tyran should have been playing far more conservative than she was. That's the number one thing you have to learn about playing any kind of support or any kind of ranged damage dealer. Stay as far away from the fight while still dealing damage as possible. Moradin going in a bit too hard there, but no big deal because we pretty much got this in the bag. We just need to do this one last push and we've pretty much won the game. As for me, I'm still collecting as many mercenary camps as I possibly can, because even if you feel like you're winning and snowballing pretty hard, you have to remember to keep that snowball going, because coming back in this game is far easier than any other MOBA. Heroes of the Storm makes it incredibly easy for a team to come back from the brink, and I have seen it happen multiple times. Now we're actually able to pin them up in their starting area pretty effectively, which is quite rare, but they're able to clear us out, even killing a couple of us. Goddamn English. We went in far too hard, we got too cocky, and we ended up dying as a result. They got a couple of good kills off on us, and that's far more valuable for them because we're just wasting time that they could be using to collect siege camps, or they could be just pushing lanes in general or collecting seeds. They do have one more player than us on the field right now, which can be a huge advantage if taken advantage of, because they can just have complete control of the seeds, although I'm not quite sure what they're doing. I mean, it's good to defend, but not when the seeds are up. You want to be collecting the seeds, you want to be getting that Garden Terror, especially when you're at 90 seeds and you're so darn close to getting the Garden Terror for your team. And just a Garden Terror enough would be enough to push a particular lane and get us focused on defending rather than attacking, which at this point, if we have the opportunity to attack, we could end this game pretty quickly. And now we have a Garden Terror, and that's pretty much game over if we just run straight for the Nexus now, because they're not going to be able to DPS it down fast enough, and if we actually protect our Garden Terror, then we should be able to pretty much win this game with this last push. However, not sure this Garden Terror knows where it's going, and also I don't think we know where it's going. We weren't focused on the correct objective at this point. We should have been helping out our Garden Terror and keeping it alive for this last push. Now, I guess we just wanted to demolish them entirely and get rid of their last fortress, but that's fine. If you just want to make sure you win, you want to clutch the game entirely, then you can do that just by knocking down all of their fortresses. Diablo getting in a really good ultimate, able to kill me by pulling me back into his team, and they're able to kill our Garden Terror pretty effectively, and at this point, yeah, they did a pretty good push back. I was pretty sure we were winning before with the whole, we had all the camps and we were pushing pretty hard. I thought we had won at this point, but I was wrong, because they actually did manage to defend quite well. And in Heroes of the Storm, it's actually quite easy to defend pretty effectively, just because all our minions aren't pushing together. If all of our lanes minions were pushing at the exact same time, it would be far more effective, but they've been able to stagger the minions quite well by having one fortress up and staggering that particular group. Now they're able to get another Garden Terror back up, which is very fortunate for them. They're able to get a good push on and make us go on the defensive instead of just focusing on killing their Nexus. Although we still continue to gather mercenary camps, although Martin seems to have forgotten to actually collect this camp, which is unfortunate, but we get him back on it. We get him back on it, which is good. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to actually pick up the camp after you defeat it. It seems like a given, but you have to actually, you know, collect it. Again, these guys have no animations. It's kind of creeping me out. We're still collecting camps, and we're still doing a pretty good job of pushing. I wonder if we do actually make this a flawless victory. I mean, we could. It would be a smart idea for them to push the top lane because that fortress is almost completely down, but they're not particularly using their Garden Terror quite effectively. A lot of people focus on just trying to keep their Garden Terror alive and running away. That's terrible. That's terrible advice. You should just go for it, and if your Garden Terror dies, well, it's going to die eventually anyway. As you can see, our entire team was focused on the Garden Terror, and we were able to get it down pretty quickly. However, they didn't seem to do a whole lot with it just because the Garden Terror was running away instead of trying to do actual damage to our buildings. That is why you have to remember that given whatever super minion that you're given, you have to actually push with it. It's not worth doing anything else with it. Again, this is really situational, but almost universally, it's better to push than do anything else. Almost. Now these guys are actually doing a pretty good job of defending, keeping their Nexus up for this long. They're able to get our minions down relatively quickly, and they seem to be focusing quite heavily on defense, although that is also going to be their downfall. They're going to have to focus entirely on defense, and we're going to be focusing entirely on offense, which means this is just going to be kept in a stalemate for a very long time until we're able to just get one final push down. One really good final push like this one with Raynor right here. Although he's not able to kill it entirely, or maybe he is. I don't really know how this game ends, but he was able to get a pretty good push in, do a lot of damage, and at this point it's not going to take a whole lot for us to take them down. Both teams are down a member right now, so it's a pretty even fight, and we should probably just go all in for a team fight, try to kill them all, and then just have access to their Nexus, which is really the best way to end the game. Just do one final team fight. Seem to have forgotten the team aspect of it, and just kill them entirely. However, I didn't seem to lose a whole lot of health there, and were able to take them down by the rest of my team coming into that fight. However, kind of a dumb idea to go in all by myself. It does seem to work out in this case though, because we're able to kill all of them, and since they have no defense, because they're all dead, we're able to just go in and end the game finally. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this match. It's pretty much done at this point. No need to get the seeds. We can just end the game right here. Again, Tyrann going in way too hard. Seems to be a running trend with Tyranns. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure casting this game. It was a very fun game to cast, and I hope I'll see you next time.